Quiet right now, just doing the podcast. So that's the current experience of birthday.
Because today is Fairy's birthday.
It is indeed.
So everybody knows that now.
Yes, it's public now. Oh, there we go.
Ah,
Thank you,
so
Cece.
sweet, Cece. Happy birthday, Barry. But
Thank you.
thank you, Cece. So this is the new streamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcasts, number one internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and the happy birthday boy, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
And Gigi's arrived. She's napping.
Oh yeah, I see.
Your voice hasn't woke her up yet, but pretty soon I'm sure she'll cruise
She'll
by.
come by. Yes, yeah,
Yeah, because she likes your voice.
works for me.
So
So,
today our title is, we're going to break this into two parts. So we're going to start with what to do when a date is aggressive, and then next time we'll talk about what happens if you've moved into a relationship and they then become aggressive.
hmm
And generally we always think it's the guy being aggressive, and probably most of the time it is the guy being aggressive. But I thought I'd call out sometimes when women, I've had men say in different ways how women have felt aggressive, but probably a little bit different than we're talking about. But I think it'll be good to shed some light on it as well.
I would say the term I would use for women coming is, I mean, the term I'd use is coming on too strong.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily aggressive, or that is the same energetic, but it's like, and being a guy, I have experienced that with some women before.
Mhm.
And in one case, it was great. In the rest case, it wasn't. Just
Yeah.
to be transparent.
Yes. And that's the other thing is, I mean, somebody who makes you afraid, man or a woman, or physically hurts you,
hmm
there's no excuse.
No.
There's really no excuse to make you feel afraid or to make you physically feel hurt. I mean, that's really the height of NO, we're done. I'm calling in authority if I need to. And one thing I'm going to say is when you're out on a date, there's a across the board thing right now that they're putting out nationally that if you happen to be in a place that serves liquor, you're in a restaurant or a bar, if you go to the bartender and ask for an angel shot, they know you're in trouble.
hmm
So I want to put that out there. They'll know to help take you to the back. They'll know to call an authority for you. They'll know to help you get away from whoever it is that's making you feel afraid. So just know that right away that there's
Yeah.
help out there in a place. I mean, I don't know. I've only heard of it asking a bartender. So I don't know about regular restaurants that don't serve alcohol. I don't know. That would be something to look after. So, but then what I made me think about that was one person's aggressive is another person's woohoo. So
hmm
that's the other thing too, is to think, how strong do you like or want or don't want somebody to come on in an
Right.
assertive way, or there she is. She woke up and heard your voice. Assertive or aggressive. So that's another thing that we're going to for sure unpack, both from the man's, as you said, the man's point of view and the women's point of view.
Mhm.
Because I think we're more sensitive to the physical part because you guys are bigger and stronger than us. It's just we have to be more aware and alert and careful, because even if you're the best guy, you're still bigger and stronger than us, and we need to keep tabs on how are we feeling with you physically.
Right. And to add some more content to this, this is one reason I've always said all the time we talk about this in conversation, is that the first time you meet shouldn't be the first date. It should be a pre-date, like coffee, daytime, public place, everything else. Because as a woman, especially, you want to be checking your vibe with this guy to see if he's trustworthy, to build that understanding if this person is somebody you want to hang out with before you go on a date at night where you're basically maybe out of your comfort zone and being in a place where you feel like somehow indebted to them because they took care of you, bought you whatever that is, bought you dinner, whatever it is.
Yep.
That's again why I recommend pre-date, especially because after the Me Too conversation started, this became real. But the other part is the assumptions that we make, and I'm using we to include all of us, both genders, because the challenge with dating right now, I think still going on, is that we have a difficulty reading each other. to really know what that line is, the boundary piece. I do a lot of work with boundaries with my clients now, and that's something that's come up a lot because the conversation of where the respect ends, where the respect should start, sort of thing. And this, I mean, I'm just again planting seeds, is that aggression can come across sometimes just as crossing the other person's boundaries without actually any sort of physical threat. Because it can just be energetic, it can just be verbal, even where the person can feel defensive because their new prospective date has been getting too invasive energetically, like just asking too questions that are too blunt or too direct, or talking about sex. All of that comes up as being aggressive. So it's not necessarily about physical threatening aggression because men are bigger than women, because yes, that's definitely part of it. But it can work on either side of the conversation when it comes to the communication side. So aggression can be verbal as well as it can be physical.
Absolutely. And I think verbal, at least for a woman, can feel just as scary as the physical part, for sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've mentioned in the past that I do when I'm going to go meet somebody for the first time is I alert the restaurant. I let the hostess know. I let the manager know that I'm coming and meeting somebody new at their restaurant. And they have stood at the door and watched me walk to my car at the end, if I happen to be there, especially after dark, which I am so thrilled about. And they take it very seriously that they're going to make sure that I leave their restaurant and I get in my car safely. And I personally don't want to be afraid of everybody. I like giving people the benefit of the doubt. I like testing it out. So I will even let them walk me to my car, especially when I know somebody's watching me.
Yeah.
So, and they I don't know, I've never asked anybody. That would be good to ask. I mean, they stand at the door and they say goodbye, but they could be doing that for everybody. And then they don't move. I know they're there. I see them when I'm leaving. I wave. And so is it the guy on the alert? No, because I don't think he even notices. I think it just gets the guy to show his true colors, which to this day, with all the hundreds of times I've been out in my adulthood, I've never had a scary time. And I think it's partly because I lay this groundwork and I'm very careful.
Yeah.
So to decide, do you feel comfortable letting somebody walk you to your car? Is it daytime or night? Is there a lot of people around? Do you have somebody that's looking out for you? I mean, there's certainly proactive things to do. I don't think anybody ever asks to be attacked. I don't think anybody ever asks to be hurt. I don't think it's what you've worn, what you've said. There's none of that. There's no respect. But your responsibility is to be proactive about keeping yourself safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
I would say there's the what's the one I'm looking for? The male justified position that have been used several times. We say, like, woman dressed a certain way, therefore she's supposed to be inviting or expecting it, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
To be blunt. And so definitely, women dress up as much as you want, but at the same time, be aware some men don't get that that's something that you're doing for yourself, and to be provocative, and that can be something he can enjoy, but doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. And that's the thing is, I mean, I wish it was easier to say it's like, when women go on dates, men are always respectful and they're honorable and then everything else. But unfortunately, isn't the case for many of the experiences. So this, and it's funny because I was thinking back, we've done so many 150 plus shows, and most of the time we talk about stuff is a lot of fun and joy and celebration stuff. This one could be a cautionary tale, but I want to make sure people don't suddenly get scared of watching this and listening to this, because frankly, what we're teaching you is so you can have more fun, joyful, exciting, and exuberant dates, because you take some of these tools, these skills, these lessons to heart, because this is dating should be, uplifting, joyful, celebratory, fun, sexy, all those things too. But it's also doing it with your eyes open.
Yes.
So you take
So
care
then
of
you
yourself.
get to the other side of however many dates you go on to meet the person, and none of them feel scary. None of them feel awful. None of them feel off-putting. I mean, that's essential. So that's what we're talking about today, is how to be proactive about it. Yeah. So that's the other thing about, we women aren't very good at saying what it is we want to need. Men are confused. It was interesting. I went out with a guy a couple years ago, and he brought up something about positions or something. And I said, I'm so curious what you made you bring that up right away, because it takes a lot to offend me, and that is so not going to be it. Because I was just amazed, and he said, "Well, the last two women I went out with brought it up." So I just thought, oh, well, that's what's happening now. And I know for a fact that was his truth. That was exactly what had happened. I mean, when my husband asked me out, the first two women he had gone out before me had them pick them up at their house for the first date. When he brought them back after dinner, they said, "Well, are you ready for sex?" And I mean, and so when he met me, he's like, "Is this really how?" And well, not with me. So women, if whatever you want, say, so that then if the guy says, well, the last two women wanted to talk about, was I creative in my positions in sex, that you say, gosh, I like sex, but I'm not going to talk about it for a while, and we need to go out a few times. And we were like, why would I have to say that? He's such a cad. And I said, this is why. This is why. It's not as if there aren't jerks, both men and women jerks out there that are crass and have no manners and just are all out for, getting in somebody's pants or getting their money. And it's such a small percentage that if we give everybody the benefit of the doubt until they show you, oh yeah, that's a jerk. Most of them are not jerks. We're all just kind of stumbling around in the dark, and everybody thinks they should know how to date and nobody does. So if somebody says something that you go, wow, really? Then you say, what would make you say that? Or that doesn't make me comfortable. I don't want to talk about that ever, or not at all, or not for a while. And then see, do they say, oh, oops, okay, geez, all right, I'm fine with that. What would you like to talk about? Then I'll still talk to them about it. But if they push their agenda, that this is their agenda, you got it, not playing, bye-bye.
And that's the thing, is having the willingness to not worry about being approved of, or worry about upsetting them, or that's something. It's like, you've got to be willing on into their own space. This has come a lot recently in conversations I've had with clients and with friends too, about making self-honoring choices. That sometimes we have to do things for ourselves that may seem like we're being uncaring for the other person, but the reality isn't about them anyway. Yes, it may be because of them, because of the way they acted, whatever it was. But it's about really willing to take care of yourself and say, you know what, I need to remove myself from the situation because what they're asking for does not fit where I want to be with this person at this point in time. Maybe if you've been together for 6 months or you start dating for real, maybe yes. But the first couple of dates, having respect for yourself can be sometimes walking away, to respect yourself enough to say, you know what, this isn't appropriate, and I'm not going to sit here and put up with it. I'm going to leave, whatever that requires. Because the thing is, if you stay, in some ways, and I don't want to say this to make it sound like you're at fault, but when you stay longer than that, you start enabling by being available to them, you got to be very careful, because they start thinking that you owe them then. That becomes very messy.
Or they think it's okay, because we women were taught from the time we're little, don't make waves, be nice, have everybody like you. I know there's women out there that are just going to roll their eyes when I say this. I've talked to enough women, and I was one of them, that I can say that there's lots of women like this. Maybe you're the exception. Good for you. Lots of women still to this day over 50 are not the exception. So my goal is to keep teaching. What is it that makes you comfortable? What is it that makes you uncomfortable? Stay in touch with it, and then say, no, I can talk about up to this, or I can't talk about that at all, or yeah, that'd be fine with me, because you are really in charge. You're in charge with who you are and who you're with and why you're still there, and if you want to still be there. And if you say no and they're more aggressive about it, then you excuse yourself to the bathroom and you tell somebody that works there you need them to get you out of there.
Yeah.
Not your job to back them off. It's your job to move your physicality away from them. So I'm not saying duke it out with them or have a big, you should behave. And I'm not saying that at all. You say first, no, I need you to speak to me differently, and see what they say. And if they say, okay, great, continue the conversation. If they say no, you're too sensitive or you're a prude or whatever people will come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Then you say, excuse me, I got to go to the bathroom. And take your belongings and scoot away and find somebody to help you,
Yeah.
because you can't stay there and make nice. There's no way you're going to turn them around. There's no way you're going to tell them that they're having bad behavior and they should be different than that. Why? That's not your job. They don't care. They don't want to learn. So that's why when you talked about the afraid thing, I thought this is really important to bring up about, because it's such a tiny percentage. I've heard the stories. I really haven't had it happen. I feel super fortunate. I do know it happens. I'm not ignorant to that. And so this is my advice. If it ever happens to you, this is how you extricate yourself. And the power that the women I've taught this to, who ended up having this happen to them, were like, wow, because they had felt like they were losing their power until they were able to stand up for themselves and bring in the Mounties. That's their job. These people are paid to keep you safe in their establishment while you're there and to get away. That's what they're there for.
I was going to say the Mounties. Okay. It's just for the Canadians.
I would say that when people come to help me, I go, it's like having the Mounties come. It's one of my things I say.
Well, I want to speak to a couple of things because, yeah, absolutely. The thing is that, the first time your date crosses the line, it's like cautionary, just be aware. First of all, let's get your awareness up. It's like, okay, something's off here, maybe. And when you offer them some course correction that they then abide by, great. Because when they don't, you're going to notice, okay, strike two, that's going to be really cautious. It's almost like, strike one, that's a mistake. Strike two, what's going on here? Strike three, I'm out, sort of thing. That mindset, in a way, is the way to do it. But I want to switch the other side for a second, because, as you said, it does happen sometimes for men when the woman's being too aggressive in whatever way that is. And I've been on some dates where women have been expectant, pushy, demanding, not verbally, but the way they want to be treated without actually having gained that right. And
what kinds of things are they doing, Barry? Please enlighten us. I want to know.
Where they presume they're going to get certain things from me. And it's not from a place of out of like, treat like a lady because I'm a gentleman. That's given. But just the way they act, and I'm trying to remember some examples off the top of my head because I tend to blank them out after a while, frankly, to be honest. But I mean, let's say there was the one that was great because she was more in sex than I was at the time, and I actually enjoyed that. So just being totally transparent, sometimes it works that way and it's okay, but sometimes it isn't, because I've been on dates with women who seem to think that was okay for them, and I was not attracted to them. We were on dates because through an app or whatever, a blind referral service, where I was with this person and she expected a whole different relationship experience than I was offering to give her, and that wasn't cool. No. And I mean, thankfully, I haven't had experience where I had to fight them off or to run away, because that's a different situation. But I've definitely had the experience of going, okay, we're mismatched completely, and I need to be honest with myself and not undermine my own self-respect to be with them the way they want. Because that's the thing as well. So for us men, again, not as common as for women by any means. So I should be clear about this. I'm not trying to say men have the much as right as women do. No, I'm saying is that when it does happen to men, we've got to be honoring for ourselves too, because part of being a gentleman is to take care of ourselves before we even take care of everybody else as well. So it's a piece of the conversation too.
Such a good point. So some of the things, because I love asking men these questions.
Of course.
The aggressive part for men has felt like when they want to know how much they pay for their house, they want to know what kind of stocks they have. I mean, right away, they're asking them very personal, none of their business questions. Right. And, seriously, not like in a funny way, because I said, well, were they being funny? He goes, no, how high end of a vacation could you take me on?
Right.
And I can see the eyes rolling of, oh, I would never do that. I would never do that. The women that are watching or listening, I've heard this. I know this. And what's interesting is any guy that's listening to this going, even if it hasn't happened to him, he's heard a guy tell him, because they talk to each other. And you've now said it out loud that women have been aggressive or assertive in ways that make you feel really uncomfortable. It makes you
Yeah.
not want to lean into them. It makes you certainly not want to go out with them another time. And those kind of women don't come to me for coaching because I'd really like to know more about why they're doing that, but they don't think they're doing anything wrong
Well,
because I ask their friends,
yeah, I want to think there's a split there I want to talk about because when someone caught my attention about that, about assertive women, because I love assertive women personally. And so there are women who are assertive and know what they want and they're going to stand up for that. That's great. But the ones who are like trying to get something out, take something from, which is what you're talking about, really is the thing where they want to know. Basically, they're more concerned about, are they going to have the lifestyle they want from this guy without actually seeing if the guy's someone they want to be with or somebody who wants to be with them. That wants to be with them either. And so I want to split that up because assertiveness is not a bad thing on its own merits. But assertiveness where it's pushing and digging and trying to hook things in to get something from him. And that thing about, how well I can treat them comes up early in the conversation, not as a fun, playful, it's like, let's go to an adventure, but more about how can I use you to get what I want? That's where it gets really messed up. Yeah. So that's a definite cautionary tale.
And it's funny because a woman listening to a woman tell the story about, well, I don't understand why you got upset. We go, I don't either. And a guy listening to the story or me listening with my guy ears is like, hun, really?
Exactly.
And this is when women see, I love that you said that out loud because women go, men don't like assertive women and they don't like independent women. And that is the biggest lie.
Absolutely.
The majority of men, not all, there's not at all anything. The majority of men I've met personally, I've coached, you say it frequently, like women that have some independence, that have a life, have some passions, have some interests, have friends, do things that they come and talk about, that they can support themselves. You love that. You love that. And you love the assertive part where they'll go, you know what I'd really like? I really like, because, I'm going to say it again. Manners make me hot. It's in my profile that I like when men treat me in that lovely, assertive way that I've asked for. I've said clearly, I love having doors open. I love having my chair pulled out. I love having my coat helped with. And it's my assertive way of saying, do this. It will make me smile and feel more comfortable and close with you. So men like that. And so I'm glad you split that between the assertive and the aggressive, because I think it fits with men too, that the assertive part of a man saying, gosh, I'd really like to get to know you better. How cool is that? But aggressive, where I'm going to have this conversation and too bad if it makes you uncomfortable. I mean, there's the split with men too, don't you think?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, because the thing is, it's interesting that thing about the door, the coat, and the chair type thing.
Yeah.
Because being raised coming from England, the thing about gentleman behavior I'm always passionate about too. And it's interesting how women react to that differently. Because some women are so afraid of letting that wall down that they won't take anything from me. And that's like, okay, that's not going to work either. So assertive doesn't mean immune to having support. Again, qualification. But the thing is, I love being able to, because part of me comes like the warmth in my chest of like pride and celebration. I can be that respectful to a woman to help her with a coat or with opening the door or with the chair, all those things. Those are just like, I feel good about doing that because it makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a man. And so when she receives it, it's wonderful. But the other part, again, that aggressive piece is, and this is something that's interesting because the sex conversation is always, we talked about this before in other podcast episodes about when to talk about sex. Well, first date rarely is a good time to talk about that. So that aggressiveness can sometimes be about what you bring to the table of the conversation. To make your career, your money, everything else, and then sex are two things that may be off the table initially because they're not relevant yet. But talking about other things like what you're passionate about, where you want to travel, what you do for fun, do you exercise, those sort of things can be great on the first day conversation. So in some ways, the aggressiveness can be what topics you bring to the table early on. It's like you almost need to have common sense when to talk about certain things that may want to wait 3, 4, 5 dates in, just to be clear.
Yeah. We should write a manual. That's what we really should write.
We should, yeah.
This is what you do at the first meeting. This is what you do at the second one. Some options. Pick from this list. Don't do things that aren't on this list, but you can pick any of the things on the list.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people don't really know, and they're nervous and uncomfortable. And good men, the last thing they want to do is make a woman uncomfortable. It is, they
Yeah.
go twist themselves into a pretzel, attempting not to make us uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do, you're like, holy crap, I don't know what I did. Because we look really uncomfortable. It's obvious we're uncomfortable, but we're not going to say what made us uncomfortable, and don't do that again. We're
And
just
we're
going
trying
to
to
be
figure out, yeah, we're trying to go back and go, was it this? Was it that? We don't know what we did, but we know obviously there was something wrong. But now we're like self-recrimination because we're going, I messed up. But of course, she's not helping me.
No. And you might not even guess right, no matter how many things you try to guess, because it could be some totally obtuse thing that's a big deal to us. So as much as you and I keep teaching this, harping on it, to say what you want to need, both people, the worst thing that happens is the person says, I can't do that. Or, gosh, what kind of person wants that? Well, they're definitely not your person if they think that.
Right.
I need somebody who goes, wow, never heard of that, but okay. Or, yeah, no problem. That's what my late husband. No, okay. Thanks for telling me. I'm good with that. I mean, that's the kind of conversation people need to have, and they don't.
Right.
And that's what will really help a lot with ferreting out people that are going to be too aggressive, and aggressive in a way that's going to make one of you uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's kind of the red flag, green flag conversation in a way. It's like you're setting up what it is you need to have in a relationship. And if you can find out on the first date, the stuff that is appropriate to bring up on the first date, again, qualification here, then you get to have a better experience of the date to know if you want to go on a second date or a third date, or it's time to walk away before you even get to the point where there's a fear of aggression or stepping past that mark or over or crossing over boundaries. There's pieces of this conversation. It's almost like, as you said, like I think we do need to write a manual or an instruction booklet of like, the 6 stages of dating or something, is that sort of thing, because people seem to have a lack of skill because it isn't taught in schools, it isn't taught in college, and parents don't teach their kids how to go on dates. So we are, most of us, floundering along, guessing how it should be done because we read an article in Cosmopolitan or something else where we think we're doing it right, but we're nowhere near, no idea if we are. So to bring to the table conversations that are important, because yes, to know when you're with somebody who matches your green flags and doesn't match your red flags is a real win to start with. So yeah, starting at the right place is a good idea as well.
So we're back to figure out what you want to need. See if the other person has it by that very first meeting that you're together, figuring out how to figure it out. So first you're going to listen to, how you doing on this first meeting? Are you uncomfortable? Are you comfortable? Are you uncomfortable because this is new? Or are you uncomfortable because of something they're doing or saying? Are you uncomfortable because, wow, I didn't realize I was going to like them a lot when I sat with them, or I didn't realize I should have found this out before I got here. I mean, honor that in yourself, and then ask the questions that you need the answers to. And if you do it in the best intention, the nicest way, it might be received differently than you're intending, and they'll go, oh, why'd you say that? And you go, well, what did you hear? What did you hear me say? Because maybe it's different. Because if you can figure out how to have those kinds of conversations in the beginning, even if they're not your person, what a good thing to practice. What a good thing to practice, because that's the thing. People want to wait until it's the person sitting across the table to practice. And I'm like, if you were going to be in the Olympics, which you could think about giving your heart to somebody that feels kind of Olympic gold medal-ish, wouldn't you want to practice a couple times before you got there? I think so. So that's the point of going and practicing, learning how to talk to somebody about what your needs and wants are. Tiny little ones.
Yeah.
I like having the chair pulled out, or gosh, I really need to hear about what you do with your family, because family's really important to me. I mean, that's not the only thing you talk about. You can talk about all sorts of other stuff, but make sure you get these things addressed that you go, oh, this is really important to me, and it's really hard for me to say something. I'm going to say it anyway. And you can even say that. It's it is hard to be vulnerable. I get that. And especially with a stranger and you're not sure how they're going to receive you. And it's kind of a good litmus test
Mm-hmm.
to see how will they receive what you say. If you bumble it out in the best way you have possible and you're like, I'm just not really good at this and I'm just learning. If somebody needs somebody that's well practiced and you're not each other's people, maybe. If they're not willing to go, oh, I get that you're just learning. Okay, we could learn together. I mean, I've had those conversations before. So being honoring of yourself, transparent with you're talking about, and honest. Boy, that's a lot to ask of people, huh, on their very first meeting. But then if you're open to doing that, look at what you're going to learn about from the other person. I've met the most fascinating people, even if I never wanted to go out with them again. They were doing things I'd never even heard of before. It didn't feel like a waste of time at all. And I'm exercising that muscle of sitting across from somebody having a conversation that might be, certainly in the beginning, they were not very comfortable, that I made myself do this kind of stuff. I mean,
Right.
now it's easier because I've done it more, but it's hard in the beginning, but I did it anyway.
Yeah, I definitely underscore the idea of having practice dates in a way, sort of thing, like going to train to be better on your first date sort of thing, because it is sometimes for some people, especially if they come out of a long-term relationship or marriage, or they're only hanging out with the friends they've known for 25 years, there isn't that newness, that experience. So sometimes it's good to go out with friends maybe you don't know so well as a way to practice those skills to become more comfortable speaking about your own truth and about listening well to the other person, because these are great skills to bring to dating. That's a powerful place to start from. I want to skip to the other side for a second because it's something I want to talk about as well, is how dates end. Because this is a topic we talked about. This, you mentioned earlier about if you're in the restaurant, you can get the wait staff to get you help by asking for an intro shot. But the thing is, even if you don't have that, when you go with the person, just to be aware, this doesn't happen all the time, but happens sometimes, is once you leave the restaurant, your first date, your date can change. Like they can shift their gears because they think now something's going to happen that didn't happen all the way through. They may have been oblivious through the whole conversation you had in the restaurant or the bar, wherever you met. And now they think they're going to, quote, get something that they expect because that's what they think dating should be like. Mm-hmm. So sometimes before you even leave the restaurant, having a communication that ends, clarifies, distills, states where you stand with each other person can be a good thing to do, rather than, especially if you're going at night or out in the dark in the alleyway by the car, saying that. It can be so messy. I mean, I remember, I was younger. I mean, definitely on the first dates, I would drive, go pick up the girl and go on dates and everything else. But back then, we didn't think about those sort of things that we do nowadays. Things have changed so much over the last decades. But having the understanding that when you're out in the world, again, always pre-date, go somewhere public, daytime safe, and come in separate vehicles so you can leave at your own when you need to, or separate transportation so you can do your own thing, because it's having that clean boundary and having respect for yourself. This self-respect thing I get really passionate about, because sometimes people will put up with behavior from the other person because they don't respect themselves enough to say no. And so understanding when you're with somebody, and after that completion of the date, and you're going into the parking lot with both cars or whatever it is, or you walk into their car, or you're being walked to your car, is know what you really want. Don't put up with stuff because you think you should, first of all. Secondly, if he is not respecting you, hopefully you've gotten clues earlier on, so you already know what's coming, so you can step aside. But even so, he doesn't have the right because at least, and there's something that was said earlier, or our producer said about this, asking permission first. Because if she says to him, I'd love being kissed, sort of thing, so she's she put the hint, the seed, so afterwards he can lean in and feel like he's comfortable enough to sort of go for the kiss without asking, cool. But if you haven't talked about that sort of thing, it's kind of like each step is a permission requested and permission granted type action, whatever it is, for it's sex, any of those things. Kissing for me is the same thing, is that if you had a wonderful first date and it feels romantic, and you're getting to know each other, you like each other, to ask first, like I really like to, versus just go in for it, is a hugely it's a big shift for some people, I know, because some people just assume they can do that. But the thing about it is one, permission is key. Secondly, is to know your own boundaries so you can step free and walk away without letting something happen. And ladies, you have intuition, you have instincts, you know when things are going off track before you even get to that point. you know to say, good night and walk away. And definitely with other people around, so you have a level of safety in public.
Yeah.
So those are keys to build boundaries, because that's the other part of the conversation. Yes, starting out and getting to know each other and everything else we talked about. What I want to make sure we include before inside the podcast is to talk about how to take care of yourself afterwards as well.
Mm-hmm. So I will add on to that, because those are such important points, that often the very first meeting, I say at the door, it was really nice meeting you. That's when I always shake their hand when I first meet them, and I decide if I'm going to shake their hand or hug them when they leave. So I do that, and I go, I'm going to walk myself to my car. And I would love to see you again if that's how I feel. Or I won't say that if that's not how I feel. And so I leave it with a boundary around it, that I'm walking myself to my car.
Mm-hmm.
I pay attention that typically I park far away from stuff, because I like being able a chance to get more steps in. But when I'm going on a meeting and it's at night, I look for a close place. I look for parking under a light. And I have more than once asked somebody from the restaurant to walk with me to my car, and they are so fine about doing it. I do that. I've spoken at a couple meetings lately, and they go, would you want me? Oh, sure. They walk me to my car, and I don't feel unsafe. It just seems smart and prudent and organized. And so saying what you want and need is not mean, and it's not aggressive. Women have this idea about asking for what they want and is a bad thing. And it's really a good thing. And if you tell them, this is because this is for me, it doesn't have anything to do with you. This is what I do at a first meeting all the time, because it's typically what I do. Then they go, okay. And maybe I'll let them walk me to my car next time. We'll see, if I've got a good vibe about it the next time. But setting your boundaries is so important, because men, that's not one of their concerns. They aren't concerned about somebody beating them up at their car. It could happen, but it's not even in their wavelength. If it's going to happen, they'll just know they can handle it. But for us, we need to really think about it. And you really are putting yourself in kind of a vulnerable place, especially if you've just met somebody. Even if they're terrific and you really like them, let them continue to prove themselves. Don't we want to see you're just as nice the next time, and you're just as nice the next time? I mean, I want to give you a chance to show me how fabulous you are a couple of times before I trust you with my precious body.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that it's interesting, because I've watched people do this. It's like the impatience or the fear of there's no time. It's like, where's that come from? If you're with somebody you really feel like you like, first of all, savor the experience, take the time, enjoy it, and remember, there's no rush. There's time for this. So if you don't kiss on the first date, but you like each other, there's a second date brewing. You might get a kiss in then, great, or maybe the third date even. I mean, it depends on how you date. But I'm saying to say is, don't be so fixated on it has to be this time. There must be a kiss on the first date. Who said that was a rule? No,
that would not be in our manual.
Exactly.
And then hopefully you'll talk in between. You'll have a phone conversation in between that first meeting and the next meeting, if you liked each other so much. And now you get to know them even more and feel even more comfortable and safe, because you've talked about more of the important subjects, the things that are important to you, so that you aren't then you're going to let them walk you to your car next time, but still trusting your instincts, still being aware, still being alert about what could happen. Because don't assume it will, but just be prepared, right?
Absolutely.
I think being prepared is really important. Well, I hope we have covered this enough for people that are dating. We'll talk about relationships when it's farther along next time and somebody gets aggressive, because there is a whole other dynamic with that. But if you're worried about it, if that's one of the things that's holding you back, that you're concerned about somebody being aggressive, and this hasn't answered all your questions, Barry and I would be so happy to talk to you about that, wouldn't we, Barry?
Yes, we would indeed.
We have lots and lots of tools to help you through that, to have you not feel afraid, because it's a big concern, and it's a real concern, and it's a concern you can address.
Yes.
Yeah. So that you can date confidently and safely and happily. So if you'd like to talk to me about that, the way to go to talk to me is to go to my website, and it's www.theperfectcatch.com, and click on what's holding you back from love. And there's a brief questionnaire to take, and then you can have access to my online calendar and schedule a complimentary appointment with me at your convenience. You can also join my mailing list. You'll get a repeat of the podcast and then all the other news that's going on in my business and me. You can also click on all my social media icons at the bottom of Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram and Threads and Pinterest. YouTube. I'm so glad you're here to always remind me of, I always know there's 7, but sometimes I forget.
I understand.
And Barry, please tell people how they could reach you if this is a concern or anything else.
Indeed. And like Christine, we work with both genders, and also depending on what you feel more comfortable with, you want for the male or female, that's why we do our show this way. You can reach out to me on my website, which is my name, barryselby.com. And on top of the screen, there's a link to get on my calendar and to have a conversation with me, which is take the next step. Also, a form's fill out so I know what you're looking for or where you are and what's going on. And then you can schedule time on my calendar. We can have a conversation about what you're looking for, what's going on, if I can help you, and if there's a good match. At the bottom of the homepage of my website, there is a link to my calendar, to my email list. You can just join in right there. I send out an email with this show replays every week as well, and other things I'm doing to keep you up to date what's going on in my work and how you can play more with what I'm doing. On social media, you can get me on all the platforms. My name is Barry Selby, except for Instagram and Threads, which is the real Barry Selby. But I'm also Barry Selby on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, formerly, or now X rather, formerly Twitter, Pinterest as well, and YouTube, of course. I did mention YouTube already. And basically, if you check us out on our social media, you're going to find lots of stuff we teach for free. But if you want to work with us, go deep, reach out to us. We're both here to help you.
Yeah, that's what I found, that people get a taste of us and they're like, now I want more.
Indeed.
And so if you do go look at any of our YouTubes, which are on our pages, as well as the streaming network page, as well as on Roku and Apple TV, you can also take us with you on audio on Spotify and Apple, and all the streaming services have us, so you can just take us shopping or on your hikes or to the gym. Shopping. You might need to take us shopping.
Yeah, right.
And then we're here every week at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern, and all the times in between live. And you can comment and ask us questions. And then please submit, if you watch any of our podcasts, if you have a question about something we've talked about and you want more information, send us that question. Or if you have suggestions of topics you'd like us to cover in the future, we're always happy to hear those. And I think Barry didn't talk about his quiz. Barry, please talk about your quiz.
Right. I forgot about that. Somebody's talking about this. I forgot about that. Yes.
It's your birthday. You can forget.
I can forget it. So there's the link right there. If you are questioning whether you're ready for a relationship, or you're not sure what's next or what's in the way, I have a quiz that will give you some clarity and give you some focus, and also link into my consults. You can work with me as well. But definitely check it out, because that can give you some clarity where you are and what's in the way. Because sometimes people don't know what's blocking them from having what they want. Like it will help you find out. So go to barryselby.com/quiz.
There you go. Good thing you say that. People that are shopping and working out while they're listening.
Indeed.
So we'll be back next week with another scintillating subject, maybe about aggressive in relationships. It'll be a surprise to all of us what we're going to talk about.
Well, we'll see how that works.
Bye for
See you
now.
next week. Bye.